Hey, welcome to a special episode of Video Game Reviews. I've had this one sort of like simmering on the back burners for quite some time, and I've finally managed to get the time and the focus to compile this list of my personal top Switch games. This list is not in any sort of order, partly to do with the fact that some of the genres are just so completely different that I find it impossible really to put them in any kind of an order. And so, like, for example, to say that my favorite beat 'em up is superior to my favorite strategy game, it doesn't really make sense. So, like, how do you put those in order? Or, even two games within the same genre. Two different games might excel in different areas, and that can make them equally exceptional, but in different ways. So I'm not going to attempt to put these in any order, really, is the point. These are just my favorite Switch games. And it was originally going to be 10, but there's no way I could stick to 10. So the last thing before I get started, I have already done a review for most of these games on this list. You can scan through all of my episodes by going to www.youtube.com/@thedroids-you're-looking-for, with no spaces and no apostrophe. And I'll go ahead and put that URL in the description below. Some of the games that I haven't reviewed for the channel are because they don't allow you to capture video footage natively with the Switch's capture button. I did make one exception with that. My video on The Witcher 3 featured only still frames, as that's all it allowed me to capture, and I was so absolutely enamored with that game that I just had to do an episode on it anyways. And it wound up being one of my most viewed videos. I think it might be my second most watched video, so I'm glad I did that. Anyways, with all of that out of the way, let's get started with the list. Again, this is not necessarily in order for the most part, but my number one game is definitely Bloodstained: Curse of the Moon. My review for that one is one of my longer videos, it coming in at, if I remember correctly, somewhere around 15 minutes. And in that video, I pretty much just shower it with praise for like a solid 15 minutes. The long and short of it is, if you like old school, if you like retro or neo-retro, if you love 8-bit or old school Castlevania, this game, Curse of the Moon, is the cream of the crop, in my opinion. Curse of the Moon is my absolute favorite game on the Switch, hands down, and it's tied for a few other games for my favorite game of all time on any platform. I would change nothing about that game, and if you want more details about why that is, or if you just want to hear me speak positively about a game for a change, check out my full review. The game is $10, which personally I think is like criminally low. Like, I can't believe that game is a $10 game. And then sometimes it even goes on sale for, less than that, even considerably less than that, which is so cheap, it seriously should be a crime. Like, there's so much garbage that people are charging $60 for. I can't believe that this game is 10. Like, I understand why. But anyways, check it out. My next pick, okay, number 2. And this one is definitely not in order, but it's Curse of the Moon Part 2. Okay, and this second installment does some things very right, in my opinion, but ultimately, I do think the first one is, overall, the better game. Though the sequel does offer a 2-player simultaneous mode, which works surprisingly well. I know, alright, Castlevania doesn't make most people think of co-op, but honestly, it's a lot of fun if you have someone locally to play couch co-op with. Though, let me be clear, it's also a very worthy single-player adventure, in my opinion. One of the very best, in fact. As I mentioned in my review, though, it is noticeably more difficult than the first game, at least on one-player mode. Now, as sort of honorable mentions for these first two games on the list, if you've already played the Curse of the Moon games and you're looking for some other like top shelf pixel art action games, I would definitely recommend Blaster Master Zero which is developed by the same company, Inti Creates. They do really great work for the most part. And then also there's Panzer Paladin, which I did a review for, and which, in my estimation, does not get the recognition it deserves, like, at all. It features some really interesting mechanics and great boss fights, really cool boss designs. If you're not familiar with Panzer Paladin, I would sincerely recommend checking out my full review to see if you've been missing out on a gem that might be right up your alley. You know, again, if you're into classic 2D pixel art action games, Panzer Paladin really shouldn't be overlooked, and a lot of people are overlooking it, so check it out. The third official game on this list is Inside by Playdead Studios. I haven't done a review on Inside because it won't let me capture video footage, and you really just need to see it in motion. Like, I guess for this portion of this video, I'm just going to show some still frames, and all I can say is these still frames do not do this game justice. You need to check it out. And this is, in my opinion, the best puzzle platformer I have ever played. And the only game in that genre that I like better than, like, Inside is the only game, like, the only puzzle platformer that I like better than Limbo. And if you haven't played Limbo, look, I consider both of these games, Limbo and Inside, to be required playing. They're very original, and just look, from concept to execution, Playdead Studios just absolutely nailed it with these two games. Both of them go on sale for as low as around $2, which again is absolutely criminal. There's, in my opinion, I mean, here they are on my list, right? I consider them some of the best games that you can possibly play on the Switch, and you can get them for $2. It's just wrong, but definitely buy them. Like, I wouldn't even complain if these games retailed for $40. I would say that they're absolutely worth it. And I guess, like, another thing to say about Inside is, if you were to ask me for, like, the best example I can think of an artsy game that is actually challenging and fun, these are the cream of the crop, no question. Like, Inside and Limbo are, in my mind, at the pinnacle of avant-garde video games that actually work as video games. Okay, so look, the fourth game on the list is Streets of Rage 4, which is another one that I consider to be the pinnacle of its class. That, in this case, being side-scrolling beat-em-ups. I'll not go into too much detail here, as it's a very well-known game, and I've actually got 2 episodes about this one here on the channel. Fun fact, Streets of Rage 4 was actually my first review on YouTube. Go check it out if you'd like. If you've already played it to death and you're looking for, like, some other worthy beat-em-ups, I've got a few honorable mentions in this category that each bring their own unique flavor to the table. I've done reviews for all of them, so I won't get into them here, but they are The Takeover, Raging Justice, and Final Vendetta. All 3 of those I would consider, like, pretty top shelf for this genre and very much worth your time and money. The 5th game on the list is Huntsdown. I've got an episode dedicated to this one too. It's, you know, it can be 1 or 2 player couch co-op, and it's a little tricky to classify precisely. It's kind of a run and gun. I would say it's probably faster paced than Rolling Thunder, but slower than Contra, if that makes sense. Like in Rolling Thunder, you can rescue. Do you rescue people? Yeah, no, you don't really rescue people, but you can take cover. And it has, like, kind of a Blade Runner sort of vibe. Cyberpunk, I guess, if you want to call it. And it's just got an absolutely awesome pixel art graphic style, and an awesome soundtrack, great voices, really just amazing sound effects. It tends to be more difficult and somewhat slower paced on 1-player mode, and I thought it was significantly easier and more, like, run and gunny with a good second player. Shout out to Patrick, by the way. Number 6 is Disco Elysium, The Final Cut. And I just want to emphasize again that this list is not in any order because this game is frickin' magnificent. And so what this is, just really, really briefly, there's zero combat in this game. Disco Elysium takes, in my opinion, the best parts of a few different styles of games and just distills it into this one game. So look, basically, if you're looking for like a great story that's all killer and no filler, you need to check this out. Disco Elysium, number 6. So number 7 is Loop Hero, and this game is honestly so difficult to explain that I'm just going to say that it gets the award for the game that is better than it looks. I get it, even for an old school fan like myself who has a love for pixel art. This is honestly kind of a rough looking game, but there's a real unusual gem buried inside. Like the previous game on this list, I would say that Loop Hero is definitely not going to be for everybody. So to get a better sense of what it's all about, I would recommend checking out my full review. Now, number 8. Again, in no particular order, this is Valfaris. Speaking of games that don't get the recognition they deserve, take a look at, well, honestly, most of the games on this list, but also Valfaris. Not to sound like a broken record, but definitely check out the full review on this one. This is, in short, it's like an H.R. Geiger-inspired setting for what is essentially the Dark Souls of Contra games. If that sentence didn't make a lot of sense to you, I'm not going to dive into it, but that is like the most concise description of Valfaris. H.R. Geiger-inspired Dark Souls of Contra games. If any of the words that I just used to describe this appeal to you at all, you should stop what you're doing and play it immediately. This studio is also responsible for Slain, Back from Hell, which I personally don't think is as good. Though if you're looking for something else by the same studio as Valfaris, then Slain is probably, it's probably also worth your time. And some people even like Slain better, but I definitely don't. Anyways, moving on to number 9. Number 9 is the AVGN Collection, or the Angry Video Game Nerd Collection, which features 3 games, which I would describe as incredibly difficult precision platformers. But some of the very best in the genre, in my opinion. It's based off of the incredibly popular YouTube show. It features a great pixel art presentation, and in my opinion, some of the very best chiptunes I have ever heard in my life. Absolutely top tier. I am not exaggerating. The chiptunes are ridiculous in this game. Moving on to number 10, and I'm gonna keep saying this in no particular order, is The Witcher 3 Wild Hunt. Chances are you don't need me to tell you about this game. Does it look better on other platforms? Of course it does. Is it worth playing on the Switch? Absolutely. Some people fall head over heels for almost anything that has an open world. Like any game that's open world, they're into it, or at least willing to give it a try. I'm not one of those people. But The Witcher 3, in case you've somehow not heard, is truly, truly exceptional. Even, like I said, for someone that's not a fan necessarily of open world style games, this game is ridiculous. The writing and characters are top tier, and most of the voice acting is also very good, ranging between very good and like best in class, I would say. I mean, there's some very, very good work here. If you need more info about this game, you can find it, well, pretty much anywhere. But of course, I have a review on the channel for this one. And like I mentioned in the beginning, it is one of my most viewed videos, despite the fact that it's all still images. Number 11 is Lingresser 1 and 2. And this is my favorite tactics or strategy game on the Switch, and one of my favorites of all time. It's probably a bit more complex than the Shining Force games, but definitely not the most complicated strategy game ever. It features 2 complete games, both of which are excellent, and it is prior to this video at least, the longest video on my channel, I believe. It's pretty close to half an hour, I think, if I remember correctly. Anyways, in my opinion, it's a must. It's an absolute must for strategy fans. And again, it really, in this case especially, this game really does not get the recognition it deserves at all, in my opinion. Like, I don't hear anybody talking about this game, and it's fantastic if you're a fan of the genre. And look, yes, by the way, just a side note, I am aware of the fact that if you took a drink every time I said the phrase, in my opinion, you'd never make it to the end of this video. But I like to be diplomatic. What can I say? Anyways, moving on. Number 12 is technically 2 games, but it really plays like one continuous story, so I'm counting it as 1 entry on this list. And that is Batman, the Telltale series, which is Season 1, and Batman, the Enemy Within, which is Season 2. And these are... Alright, look, if you've never played a Telltale game, they are... they're kind of interactive visual novels. Though, honestly, that description is it's too reductive. So you guessed it, check out the full review. These games feature top-tier writing, seriously top-tier, maybe the best, maybe my favorite writing in a video game. And also mostly top-tier voice acting. The production value on this thing, in my opinion, is off the freaking charts. And again, I don't really hear a lot of people talking about how much they love Telltale games, and I have no idea why that is. These two are incredible. It's one of my favorite Batman stories of all time. Now, be aware that these 2 games are going to take up a lot of storage space. Without checking, I think it's somewhere around a combined total of 25 gigs. So yeah, dude, you're going to have to free up a lot of space, but they are absolutely worth figuring that issue out to be able to play them, in my opinion. My number 13 is No More Heroes 3. Even though No More Heroes 2 is probably my favorite game in the series, I played that one back on the Wii. So for this list, I'm going to put down the third one because that's the one I played on the Switch. This game, this series, has indie hipster dripping out of every pore. No More Heroes 2 almost feels like what would happen if Tarantino made a video game. That would be it. It's just cool. It's got a great style, and the gameplay is just fun. It's easy to pick up. It's hard to put down. I've done 2 videos on No More Heroes 3, so check those out if you're interested or curious. For number 14, I've got Luigis Mansion 3. It's got the top-notch polish that you'd expect from a first-party Nintendo game. They know how to work with the hardware, and it shows. I can't really make a lot of comparisons, as it's really a pretty original series. Nothing comes to mind that really is a whole lot like Luigi's Mansion. But go ahead and check out my review for more in-depth info on what makes this another Nintendo masterpiece. Number 15 is Mario Odyssey, and I absolutely love Mario 3D World and the Mario Galaxy games, but to be honest, I never really got into Mario 64. So when I heard that Mario Odyssey is that it's in some ways a return to certain elements of Mario 64, it's a little bit more of a focus on exploration, I would say. I was a little bit concerned as to whether or not it was really going to be for me. Although it is different than Galaxy and 3D World, I think it's an equally fantastic experience. And here it is as one of my favorite games on the Switch. And just as with the No More Heroes situation, I didn't put Galaxy or 3D World games on this list because I played those on the Wii and the Wii U. So this is just a list of games that I first played on the Switch. So for number 16, again, in no particular order, is Shovel Knight Treasure Trove, which contains 4 full-length games. 4 pixel art masterpieces. It is often regarded as the gold standard of indie games, and while it is very, very good, it's not my favorite indie game or my favorite game on this list. For 2D pixel art games, I prefer Curse of the Moon. And for non-pixel art indie games, I'd pick Inside. But Shovel Knight is, of course, excellent. And with 4 games in this bundle, it does give you the most playtime for your dollar, theoretically. Because like with Curse of the Moon, I've replayed that one so many times. All right, we're getting close to the end here. My God, this is a long video. This is going to be a nightmare to edit. But anyways, number 17 is Mario plus Rabbids Kingdom Battle. That's the first one. Okay, I haven't played Sparks of Hope yet, which is the sequel that just came out not terribly long ago. But I haven't played that yet, but I'm very much looking forward to it. Anyways, Kingdom Battle. Look, if you're a strategy fan with a Switch, this is a must play. If you can deal with the family-friendly presentation in the meh story, whatever, it's a Mario story. If you can put that aside, this is, at least in my experience, a fairly unique strategy game. And one that fans of the genre should absolutely not miss. Do not overlook this just because it looks cute. Like, if you can just focus on the gameplay is very much worth your time. Number 18, and definitely in no particular order, because this would not be 18. Anyway, it's Super Bomberman R Online. And look, I won't try to explain how Bomberman works in this quick blurb, so I encourage you to check out the full video, but this game is absolutely sublime. Multiplayer, competitive, online 2D madness against 63 other people. Look, Bomberman is basically chess on speed with bombs. And honestly, I don't understand how this is not an esport. Now look, Super Bomberman R Online was, past tense, free to download and free to play. Though they, future tense, past tense, I'm not sure what I want to go. Probably by the time this video comes out, it will have already happened. But look, anyways, on December 1st, 2022, they're taking this game down. It's going to be end of life for Super Bomberman R Online, which is sad. But supposedly they are working on a new Bomberman game, though I don't have any details on that, such as whether or not it will be free, which honestly I kind of doubt, or whether or not it will be online, which more than likely it will be online. I don't know why they would make an offline Bomberman anymore. Doesn't make sense. So look, number 19. Number 19 is the infamous Dead Cells, and look, I'm not really a fan of roguelites, generally speaking, but Dead Cells is the best in class in that genre, in my opinion. I don't think that I know of any other game with more substantial free updates than Dead Cells. This truly appears to be a labor of love on the part of the developers who just keep adding more and more to this wonderful game. I mean, it's been out for years and they're still dropping new content, and much of it is often free. It just downloads and you have more game. Look, it may look like a Metroidvania, and it is sometimes called one, but it absolutely is not a Metroidvania. It features distinct, separate levels. Even though there are branching paths, you still complete the levels that you choose in a linear fashion. It's one after the other. After you don't go backwards. You don't backtrack. Anyways, look, if you'd like to know more, check out the full review. Now, that actually was going to be the end of my list, but last night I picked up on sale for $4, which again is criminally low. I mean, that's beyond dirt cheap for what you're getting. I picked up the Castlevania Anniversary Collection for $4. And, you know, if you know anything about me, if you've seen this channel for a while, like that, are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? That gets an instant spot on the list, and here it is. It's the last one, squeaking in at the nick of time. Made it to a nice round top 20 Switch games. This game is absolutely not in order. It would probably be number 1 or like tied for number 1. I don't really know. But I consider the first Castlevania to be like probably the most perfect game in terms of design. It's perfect. I'm sure there are lots of people that would argue with that. I would not change a thing about the first Castlevania. And this collection here, currently on sale for $4. I think normally it retails for $20. You know, it includes Castlevania 1, 2, 3, Super Castlevania 4, Castlevania Bloodlines, the first two the Castlevania Adventure 1 and 2 for the original Game Boy. It includes this game that used to only be released in Japan called Kid Dracula, and then it's also got just a lot of it's got like a lore book with artwork and literally the design documents from the original Castlevania, the documents that they based that game off of. So really, for a fan and a collector, you know, and just an overall Castlevania obsessed lunatic, this collection is, even at $20, is absurd. And I know that like probably a lot of people who are fans of these games already have them on other formats, but to have this thing available on the Switch, you know, being able to easily move it around from one place to another, being able to connect it to your TV and play it that way, being able to play all of these Castlevania games on the go. Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me, man? It's an incredible package, and so that's it. That's my top 20 Switch games. I do have a few honorable mentions that didn't really fit anywhere else in this video. There are 3 of them, and I'm just going to get those out of the way, and then we'll wrap up here. Look, so all of the games in this episode are, in my opinion, obviously, worth your time and attention. There's no way I could have felt good about cutting almost half of these out, or half of these games out, and making it a top 10 just because people love top 10s. All 20 of these games are, like I said, I can't pick between them. I can't pick half of these and set them aside as better than the other half. I just can't. Look, I'm sure that some of you will disagree with some of these, and I'm positive that some of you will feel that I've left some important games off. But this is my opinion based on the over 100 Switch games that I have played extensively, and most of those to completion. So, you know, basically if there's a game that I have not played extensively, it wasn't even in the running to wind up on this list. So look, to cap things off here are the 3 honorable mentions. I couldn't really call any of these the best games on Switch necessarily, but they may be of interest, and I found them interesting, unusual, and fairly unique. The honorable mentions are 1980X, One Strike, and WarioWare Get It Together. Now, for 1980X, this is a spectacular nostalgia trip for anyone who remembers gaming in the late 80s to early 90s, or anyone who wishes they did. It features a handful of different old school game styles. One could argue that it feels maybe more like a proof of concept than an actual finished game, but it's still a worthwhile experience in my opinion. Honorable mention number 2 is One Strike. And look, I don't think that the single player is really all that engaging, but it's a great game to have available if you have people over. Like if people unexpectedly show up to your house, this is a super easy game to put on. It manages to be both accessible and engaging at the same time. The rounds are very quick and the controls are really simple by fighting game standards. It's a one-on-one fighting game with a one-hit kill system, hence the title One Strike. This game sometimes goes on sale for $2, though I suggest you get it with the expansion, which gives you more characters to choose from. You will kind of get tired of the original, like only being limited to the original set of characters like pretty quickly. And if you're going to be playing with other people, it's just nice to have option. And it's already so cheap, just spring for the expansion. Trust me, you probably will not regret that. It's a fairly small download, and like I said, it's cheap, so there's just really no reason not to have it on hand in case people show up to the house. The last honorable mention and the final game in this video is WarioWare Get It Together. Look, I like the art style, as I think it works well for this particular game, and it's got a great casual kind of pick up and play quality, while also having the ability to compel you into longer play sessions. I did feel like the multiplayer mode was a little underwhelming to me. However, the best thing I can say for it is that even after I finished the game, which is honestly very doable the first time you play it, so just be aware of that. Like I think it's like 2.5 hours to run through the entire single player game. But yeah, here's the credit that I have to give to this game is after I did that, I still felt compelled to get like all of the collectibles and upgrades and all of that, just because the game is just so easy to pick up, and it's just like a piece of candy for a short attention span. It's just like, oh yeah, I could play that now. And you play it for a while and you earn some collectibles and upgrades, and then you move on with your life. But it's as long as you don't mind the fact that it's a short game, it's a really fun game. Anyways, look, that does it for this one. Like I said at the beginning, I put this video off for a really long time, over a year for sure, because I knew it was going to be a lot of work, which, by the way, it was. I wasn't at all wrong about that, but I'm glad I did it. It was fun. So look, a huge thank you to all of my subscribers, and really anyone who watches my show here. Thank you. I appreciate it. If you're not subscribed, I hope you'll consider doing so. And I'll see you guys next time, whenever that may be. Bye-bye.